Okay, folks, welcome back. This is our midweek review for the ICT mentorship for December 4th, 2019. All right, so we had a welcomed change to the very stagnant market we've been dealing with for the dollar index. We were looking for buy-side liquidity to be swept. The only thing would change the bearish stance would be the trade above the fair value gap here. We did simply run above the buy-side liquidity, resting above these relative equal highs, stabbed above that and rejected. And we were looking for this to continue this week. I said that we want to start off right away with looking for down movements. Okay, and very little movement above the opening, and the large portion of the daily range would be on the downside, creating the low. And we've seen that here. So far, we had a little bit of a deeper retracement. I want to see it stay below 98. Okay, I think it could try to get back up into the range in here and then roll over is what I would like to see. Preferably, I would like to see it not even enter back into the range and just stay below yesterday's low, and then create maybe small range days in here and then resume lower for the sell side liquidity pool resting here. So everything is still in play for running here and then eventually trying to grind down into these relative equal lows. Now this will also be important if we get down to this level. Will we do it in this month? I don't know. This certainly is possible before Christmas, and you're probably looking at this thinking, well, it could do that in one day, and it can. But we're also in a very stagnant consolidation, and we could have just simply came down below these equal lows and then stayed in this range between 98 and 97.40 for a few days. It could really be frustrating, but I don't want to see those things. And really what I want has nothing to do with what the market's going to do. My expectation would be to, again, see it resume going lower and reaching the sell side liquidity pool here. So everything remains bearish. Now I want you to also recall how I mentioned this old high back here, and that's the 2018 old high, and how we had 1, 2, 3 major times trying to get above that, and then we just stalled many times there again, multiple attempts to go above it, and then where we're at now. So very difficult. I made no bones about that, but it was nice to see eventually the signatures that we look for pan out. So it's very handsome to see that. Let's drop down into an hourly chart for a dollar. All right, so here's the dollar index on an hourly chart. And I want you to take a look at what we've done since December started. We had the initial run above those equal highs on the daily chart, and this is that old 2018 high. We had a break in market structure, fair value gap. Okay, and while it didn't come all the way back up to close the gap entirely, look at where it was sensitive to, the old 2018 high. Now, these are things that I taught rather extensively, even in free tutorials back in Baby Pips days, and everything I've taught from using important highs and lows, and they are yearly highs and lows, quarterly highs and lows every 3 months, monthly highs and lows, weekly highs and lows, and intra-week highs and lows, and then old daily highs and lows, like previous days high and low. This run to this high in immediate rejection going lower is something that you probably would have never paid any attention to had I not given it to you in the chart. You never would have seen that 2018 high as a factor here. You would have looked at this and said, well, maybe it just didn't need to get up into that gap and completely close it. If you go back and look at the times where the fair value gaps don't close, but they come real close to it like that, you're going to find an important level relative to a higher time frame or a higher perspective. In other words, we're looking at yearly ranges with this level here. So that was a 2018 high for dollar. And it came into beautiful resistance here and fell out of bed like gangbusters, just beautifully sold off and continued going lower below the sell side liquidity pool, which is this line here. We had one attempt to go shallow, another attempt to go shallow, and then finally aggressive run deeper. So now we came back into it here as resistance. We want to see it kind of like find a willingness to want to go lower. There was a small little fair value gap in here above the old low, which is that sell side liquidity pool from the daily chart. Again, rewind the video and you'll see that that's what this level is here. We went back into the fair value gap. We had 2 times in here. We want to see it just roll over going lower. Okay, but don't be disheartened if we see it stay in a range, between 98 and 97.40, I think is what it was. Whatever this low is. Let's see what that is. The low. See that's what this level is here. We went back into the fair value gap. We had 2 times in here. We want to see it just roll over going lower. Okay, but don't be disheartened if we see it stay in a range, between 98 and 97.40, I think is what it was. Whatever this low is. Let's see what that is. The low, 97.43. Yeah, so this is basically call it 97.40. It could stay in that range for a couple days. Or certainly remainder of this week and beginning of next week, and then we want to see it move lower. Again, ideally, we want to see it just roll over from where we are right now. All right, moving on to euro dollars. This is our daily chart for euro, and really nice run since the equal lows I outlined. I said I wanted to see it trade down into that. The open on that candle that creates the bullish order block on the daily chart. Sell side liquidity coupled with a bullish order block, really nice discount array, came to fruition perfectly to script. Traded down below it, reject, and traded higher, running the equal highs back into the fair value gap here. How we get to this buy side liquidity pool remains to be seen. I don't know if it's going to require to come back into consequent encroachment of the fair value gap or BISI in here, buy side of balance, sell side inefficiency. I'd like to see it remain above 110.50. Okay, so 110.50. If it goes below that, it's going to be problematic, and I'll probably want to reach deeper below here and still trade sideways for the remainder of the year. I can accept, seeing 110.50 trade down into here, and then resume going higher for the buy side liquidity here. Again, think about what I outlined for dollar. We could stay quiet for a couple days and still not really change anything on its bearishness. The same thing is said here, just in reverse, because the euro is diametrically opposed. So if the dollar is weaker, as I'm anticipating, then we'll see an eventual run higher on euro. That's what should happen. Even though we had this real heavy run into the fair value gap, I tweeted at the time, I said that we were at a important level to watch and see how it trades. It traded up into consequent encroachment. I said on Twitter to pay the trader, prompting you to pay attention to what's going on. And we failed to get to the opposite end or the high of the fair value gap. Now, this is why it's really, really important. It's crucial for you to not marry the vein. That means don't expect everything to pan out perfectly. This is the reason why we have to take partials, because as a developing trader, you're not going to have the experience to hold onto the trades to get to the ultimate objectives over here. You're going to be lulled into thinking it's reversing. You'll get scared, or you'll stop out because you're getting too aggressive about bringing your stop loss up too quickly, too close, and it prematurely ejects you from the trade before you actually see the biggest run in the swing. So when we get to the bottom of the fair value gap, that's a level we could take profit at, or partials. Consequent encroachment, mid part of the gap, that's another level we would reach for taking partials. And then when you get this deep retracement, if your stop loss is down here below the expansion on Monday, you're not concerned, because number one, you've paid yourself at least once, maybe twice. And even over here, where I mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, I did say something on Monday to take something off. If I didn't, the protocol, it should have been within reason for you to take it if you did it long. There's a few of you that were very startled at the reaction because you paper traded it and or demo traded it as it went below that low. And some of you were very upfront and said that these are the first time that you did that. You executed on a down candle below old lows, and it felt like it was extremely bearish. And your expectations were that you were going to see it trade aggressively lower. Well, some of you, not all of you, said that. And I'm saying the ones that reached out to me. And the folks that do these types of trades initially all have the same reaction. It just doesn't feel right. It feels scary. It feels like you're doing it wrong. I mean, everything in the chart looks like it's going lower. But when you outline it, as I did for you with the equal lows, I said it was going to go down here. And then, well, let's rephrase that. I said I would like to see it trade below these equal lows into the order block and then reject and go higher up into the fair value gap. We saw that transpire. Now, did I know with absolute assurity that it was going to happen? Absolutely not. There's always some measure of risk. Okay. Some of you feel that I have tools and things at my disposal that's going to give me 100% odds of it going to pan out. And I'm going to say this very clearly and succinctly. I do not have that ability to be 100%. It doesn't exist. You're never going to have that. And there's going to be periods where the odds, if you will, are so overwhelmingly likely to see a specific thing unfold. Those things I comment on, and it's based on the things you're learning or learning in the future. So most of the things that you see me comment on, I wouldn't say them if I didn't believe it, because otherwise it would be just me just talking in circles and really meaning nothing and seeing nothing come to fruition. The month of November was extremely difficult for me, and I really want you to spend some time thinking about that when you get to this weekend. I mean, some of you probably have already done so, but really reflect on how difficult it was for me to find something to outline. My ability to focus on one side over another was really challenged, and it was one of the best lessons since I've started this mentorship with everyone in 2016. It was the best environment for all of you to be forced to endure. The educator, me, your mentor, I was telling you that I wasn't getting very clear signals, and some of you didn't want to believe that. Some of you were expecting some kind of a punchline, and I absolutely meant it. It was very difficult for me, and it's important for you to give yourself permission when you encounter those environments to take a step back and do nothing. Don't try to force something. Don't assume because you have tools and you have someone that you have a lot of faith in teaching you, namely myself. You don't want to basically impose your will on the marketplace, because there are periods that I will simply say, I don't know yet. Now, saying that is not weakness. It's absolute maturity. It gives the analyst permission to look for more information, and it gives the permission to the trader in you to sit still and not feel like I'm going to miss something, or I'm doing something wrong, or I'm not making good use of my time, and I should be studying the markets really, really hard, looking for the next move, because even though it's probably not obvious right now, it's there. No, there are simply times when the market is simply not going to move. And that's one of the benefits of being with me every single week, is for you to see with my eyes, almost 30 years experience. I can tell you from my own personal understanding and study where these conditions are and what is likely to occur and what hardships that you're going to encounter. And my job as a mentor is to talk you through them and try not to allow yourself to get impulsive about doing something because you feel like you're wasting time. In this industry and in this mentorship, you want to learn when not to do something. because that is wisdom. Everyone else out there can find something to make money on, and whether those things were attributed to the factors they want to ascribe to or just coincidence. And I have been exposed to just coincidence and blind luck in the beginning when I first started as a commodity trader. So I know that environment exists, and it can lull you into thinking that you're smarter than you really are. Teaching yourself or allowing yourself to be taught how to admit an absence and void of understanding in current market environments, that is one of the surest signs that you are a mature, objective, independent thinker that is not going to be swayed by others' opinions, the excitement, the fanfare, the drum beating, all the things that will get you worked up into a frenzy to take a trade. All those things will be, well, unprofitable in terms of derailing you. Knowing when to do something and when not to do something is a huge advantage. 99% of traders out there do not have that skill set. That skill set of waiting for more information and not being impulsive, not being the person that wants to impose their will, and because you think you have time, therefore let's get in there and trade, or I haven't taken a trade in XYZ number of days or weeks, I need to do something right now. Those things, okay, those environments, those conditions or circumstances will always result in pain. Because what's going to happen is you're going to do those things, and as soon as you click to enter the trade, you're going to regret it. You're going to feel it inside, but you're going to try to suppress that. What you're learning here is not to go through that regret of pushing the trade and getting in and then watching it go against you, and then you arm wrestle with yourself saying, oh, let me just see if it can go back to break even, and it never goes back to break even. It goes further against you, and you say, okay, well, let me just see if I can go back against where I'm at right now. I don't want to get out of this level of a loss. Let me see if it can, and all of a sudden it just turns into a big loss, and it's just a mess. And all that is completely avoided if you listen. You're going to take losses, but you will never end up in those environments where you're confused, you're arm wrestling because you did a mistake, and just completely toxic thinking, poor execution, and just rushing to do something. That's the level of understanding you're getting here versus what I was putting out in previous teachings prior to August 2016. I'm giving you all of the things that you will need and what will help you excel very quickly. Now, some of your definitions of quickly is unrealistic. Just like some of the folks that come in here, they think they should have access to everything, or they want to be able to pay it, month 1, month 2, month 3 in days, not waiting a full month. Those individuals are never going to be good at this because they're rushing to get through content that takes too much time to digest, spend intimately with yourself, and research them and see what resonates with you. Because if you don't do those things, and if you don't log them in your study journal, the epiphanies won't occur. You won't feel like you've learned anything, and you'll come away with, this is too hard, and ICT makes it too vague. And I have not made it vague. It's very, very and clearly spelled out. And the benefit of these weekly commentaries is that I'm actually reaching into the understanding that you all have relative to the core content, and then placing that stuff in the right place at the right time, and avoiding the things that are not necessary or required at the time we're looking at price. So even though there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of theory and a lot of principles and concepts and protocols, there's a place and time for everything. And that's the benefit of being with me in the mentorship. So I say all this as a reminder to folks that we just encountered the most difficult month I personally have ever had as a trader. Now, I'm not saying that because I lost money, because I didn't lose money, but I did lose my patience. Very few times can I admit that I lost my nerves about a market. And I will and I'll be upfront and honest with you, a lot of it has to do with performance anxiety, because I know there's a large number of you in here. And here's what you need to understand. I don't personally care if you all quit and never continue with the mentorship, because I already know these things and it's not going to change it, and I can do it. I wear my heart on my sleeve with every student, and it's my absolute desire for all of you to do better than me and not to endure the things I had to endure learning this. Some of you want to do things your own way, and that way is not the right way. And it's hard for me to communicate that to you, because you're coming in with a very small perception of what you're going to learn, because you don't have the big picture. And that's the other reason why I don't give a breakdown. Like, I have people ask me, can you give me a curriculum? Like, what are you going to teach? No, I don't do that, because it will give in the impression that everything can be concisely explained in this or that, or I'm not going to worry about anything until I get to that month, and all these little cherry picking scenarios where people that come in, they don't know what they're doing, or they've been trading for a while and they've had hit or miss results, or even worse, they have a method that makes them money and they think that they're smarter than the average person, so therefore they should be able to excel and go through this faster at a more accelerated pace. And all of that is baloney, because what you're learning here is completely different than everything else out there you're going to touch. And I know this from firsthand experience because I designed it. So all of the other things that retail will subject you to are going to be, available to you at a faster, quicker pace. And none of that is going to translate into profitability. Here, what I want you to do is really focus on the things that I'm drawing your attention to, and the things that I say. There's sometimes when I'm giving the commentary, I'll say, I don't want to see these certain things unfold. Now, when I say those things, I want you to research what would make me say that. Sometimes I give the answer in the videos and sometimes I don't. But the things that I say that about are actually in the core content, but it's the opposite of the effects and signatures that I'm looking for. So what am I saying? The absence of specific signatures in price action that I look for is a communication of many things that would line up to a reversal. Okay. In other words, I can submit myself to an idea and co-sign to a view, like I have been with the dollar index. I stuck to my convictions about my experience, what it is telling me, even though the chart could be telling many of my students in here and other people around the world saying the dollar was going to go higher. I just trusted what I know, and I've been here before. So I leaned on my experience, and it proved correct. Now, it's not an arm wrestling match, okay? Because I know there's a few in here that are very strong-willed individuals, and some of you like to go up against me and say, well, I think this is what's going to happen. And very rarely, very, very rarely am I wrong, okay? But when I am wrong, I know why I'm wrong. You will know those things by spending time with me for yourself. You'll know the environments that you're going to want to trade in. You're going to know when to stay out, because I'm going to tell you in advance where the problems are going to most likely creep in. Where are the pitfalls? What are the things that are going to be, problematic? And when we go through these rituals every week on Wednesday and on the weekends, it's important for you to listen and not just hear my words, but listen to what I'm trying to draw out of you or instill on you. I want to put something in your mind in terms of mindset that really can't be captured or obtained by learning from other resources or other teachers. And I've looked at a lot of things that out there that would otherwise seem like it's the secret sauce. It's this is the Holy Grail. I'm going to be real honest with you folks. This is the Holy Grail. Okay, this is it. You're in it. You're in the very inner circle of it. And some of you really don't understand the gravity of that, okay? Because what we're doing, even though it's not 100%, we are looking at market moves before they happen at a level of consistency and precision that transcends all other disciplines and all other educators. They don't know these things. Now, there's a lot of people out there in the 20-some bracket, okay? All these 20-year-olds pretending that they're market makers, or now they know all the secrets of the market maker, okay? Because they got their hands on some bootleg videos, okay? And those videos, while they probably made them feel like they're superhuman and bionic in their brain now, they're incomplete. And they're only going to go so far as the words that they hear me say, because that's all they're doing is regurgitating. They don't have the experience that you're tapping into being here. So the charter members that are here, you're learning continuously. You're getting more education. You're getting a huge amount of experience because you're leaning on mine. There's a lot of advantages over not feeling compelled to make the decisions on your own initially. Eventually, that's your goal. You want to gravitate away from me giving you the basis, and that's why you want to kind of like do your analysis before you watch these videos, because you want to see if you're in alignment with what I'm saying or my perception of what I think may unfold, and or if it's not, figure out after the fact. I'm not saying go in here with an arm wrestling competitive mindset, because that defeats the whole purpose. You're here to be trained, okay? You're here to learn what it is that Price is going to do next, not be in a competitive state of mind, because competition with yourself is going to be one of the things that's going to lead you to do things impulsively. Like I mentioned earlier, you're going to feel like you got free time. Oh, let's get in here and click and press a button and get into a trade. And regret will hit you right away, because it normally will happen that way all the time. And especially when it doesn't work immediately like you want it to. And then you start wrestling with yourself into the loser cycle. If you don't allow yourself to be flexible in terms of what you expect yourself, and then watch the analysis, what I give in commentary, be flexible in the fact that I could be wrong. And we've seen that. November has proven it. I can be wrong. It doesn't change the underlying premise or statistics behind the things that I teach you, because here we are, it's delivering again. So if you would have over leveraged doing things impulsively because you need things to happen for you, okay, or you join this mentorship with no real money or finances to weather it for 12 months and then the charter member payment, and you feel like you got to make money on the things I'm talking about, you're going to do things like that and you're going to blow it. You're going to mess it up because you're going to over leverage, or it will be wrong. And that loss will be so significant to your balance, it completely blows your mental capital or blows your account. So you won't be here to learn. You're here to try to use me as a signal service. And that's what the first group quitters did. They left. They couldn't deal with it. Because they're not here to learn, or they weren't here to learn. And some of you are in here, maybe you just started, maybe you're going in the second month, and that's what you're thinking, like, I need this to start making money for me, or I'm going to leave. I'm going to help you out. Leave. Because you're not here to make money. That part comes later on. You're here to control yourself, learn about yourself, and then implement things that you're going to learn modularly and conceptually over time that will lead to an ability to be able to make money like you've never seen before. Some of you want the real quick, get me rich, Michael, make me rich right now. And I'm going to break you. You're not going to get that from me. It doesn't work like that. You can watch every video in this mentorship, and that's not going to click for you. The folks that are here for the lifestyle and the consistency goal, those are the ones that are going to thrive. They're going to do very, very well here. The ones that are listening, they're being flexible with themselves and their expectations, because what you think is possible is completely out of line when you first come in here. Some of you think that you're going to hit the ground running, you're going to make 100 pips a week, and it's this and it's that. It's not like that, because all of a sudden, when you look at the charts, there's a decision that needs to be made. And I tell you my perception of price every Wednesday and every weekend, and I'm on the hook. Like, I can't go back and say, well, I really didn't mean that. Okay, either it pans out or it doesn't. And we had several instances in November where it didn't do that. And some of you that just started, if that is problematic for you and you have second guessings about whether this is right for you, quit. Because I don't babysit anyone. I'm not going to sugar talk anything. I'm not going to give you all the cheerleading to stay into this. Just quit, because it's going to happen again. Now, when will it occur? I don't know. But guess what? That's exactly what it's going to be like when you start trading with live money and making the decisions on your own. You're going to incur losses. You're going to have a period where everything just simply doesn't make sense. And you're forced to either make the decision of sitting still and wait for new setups, new information, or gamble. And then see what happens with Lady Luck. Sometimes she likes you, sometimes she doesn't. Either way, it's not a bet I want to take. So there's a lot of, discipline that's required to be here. And it's not just to simply let's watch a video, let's hear what ICT says, because there's lessons, even though you don't realize that when I'm talking to you like this one, I have different angles I'm coming at with different people. And I'm responding to all of them with one small rant. Now, it may not be small in terms of time, but it's a small rant that's concise compared to the things I would have done on YouTube. But you have to be able to discern the length of time that we've been going since August 2016. I saw some goober on Twitter. He tweeted to me, how can I have all this outstanding accuracy now? And during the live sessions in the mentorship, they weren't as accurate. Well, those lessons weren't for me to be giving signals. I was giving mindset, things that we'd be thinking about. What are the foremost things that are in the market that you're looking at in charts, and they begin to build over time. Okay. Anyone that listens to the weekly commentaries can tell right away that that's a different animal altogether, because I'm giving you just the brass tacks about what it is that I'm looking for, applying the things that way. And I'm not bombarded by 860 people asking me questions in live session. Okay. That's distracting me. So in this element, you see how well I can operate and the things I'm using. And I'm doing it in a very limited capacity because I have to make these videos usable on all levels. Now, for charter members, they're not hearing anything better or more detailed than you that started in month one. There's no secret sauce being added on. I tried that, and it's just too much work. Okay, so what I did was I'm going to keep everything focused on a month one level. So anyone that comes in this mentorship, they can grow with the information, but also understand majority of it when I talk about it. There may be some things that pop up that you have to wait and research into later months. But for the most part, I'm giving you directional bias. I'm giving you the direction of what side I focus on more. Even though I may be bullish long term, I may change gears on short term. Say, okay, I'm expecting it to go down here. So I'm giving you a bias to work with and study. And I'm telling you which pairs that I don't want to touch when it's applicable. So even though this is not a signal service, okay, I'm not advertising it as one. I'm not implying that you should use it as such. I am pointing to certain things that you should already anticipate based on the concept. When I say certain things in video, even though I'm not spelling it out saying buy euro dollar at XYZ price with a stop at blah, 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 and take first profit at this, this, and this, your mind should immediately fill in those gaps based on the things that you've learned from the core content. And in the beginning month, you have the initial framework that really makes day by day daily bias possible. But what you do with that bias once you have it is what you learn at a graduated pace each month. There's more information. There's more pieces to the puzzle. So I'm really placing the ball in your lap and saying, okay, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in the marketplace, but I'm not going to put it in such details because there's already a plethora of 20-year-olds all parading around the internet, okay, pretending now all of a sudden they're smart because everything I'm saying in these videos, they're parroting. That means they're saying everything I'm saying, and to whoever's listening, they look smart. And I want you to understand something. These commentaries aren't going to go on forever. Now, what are you going to do with your subscriber base now? Because I'm going to, in 2020, roll back into hindsight examples only. I'm not going to be forecasting anymore. So all the people that are getting themselves fat on these long-winded rants and they get to cherry pick the things that it's going to talk about the marketplace, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. Everyone out there that's pretending to be a clone of me and not really wanting to learn how to do this, they're going to fail. And it's going to bring me great pleasure in helping that happen. The folks that are here to learn, they're not going to see any difference. They're not going to see any advantage or disadvantage over that because they're learning conceptually. If any of you have problems with that, the door is waiting for you. I'm not here to answer every person's wish. I'm not a genie. It ain't let's rub ICT's back and he's going to give me everything I want. That's not how this works. I know how to transform you into what you would be required to have as understanding and insight to be an independent thinker, to make these decisions on your own. You do not need me to tell you forever, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen, and that's not going to happen forever, okay? When I'm done doing all 12 of the individual trading plans with the charter members, I will no longer be doing weekly commentaries in the capacity where I'm talking about future moves. I'm only going to be talking about what has happened. Okay, so for some of you, that might be a deal breaker. And guess what? I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely 100% okay with that. And you should be okay with that too, because if you came in here with the expectation and this is how it's always going to be, then now you know it won't always be like that. So if you are here to learn, you will learn, but you will not have the sugar placed in your hand like a piece of candy 2 times a week from me. That's going to eventually change. Now, obviously, we have months before that actually happens because I got to go through each individual trading plan for each individual price action model. So that means there's 12 more months, okay, that I'm going to be doing this. But I'm also, as we go through, I'm going to be dialing back how much I give because I want to press upon you as the student to do the legwork. I want you to be able to do these things, not be codependent on me. Okay. So in 2021, the only thing I'm going to be doing is reviewing 100% everything that's happened in the past. And there is nothing going forward or projecting my expectations about what the market's going to do. That stops. I've already seen so many of these kids, okay, that suddenly overnight got smart. All of a sudden, they've never been around before. They've never been in the industry. You've never heard of them before. Now, all of a sudden, they're saying the things that I'm saying, and they look like geniuses. They're smart. Honestly, this might raise a lot of mixed opinions with the group here, and I know it may be very polarizing, but remember this. I'm not obligated to do these weekly commentaries and point to anything that's about to happen. That's just something I just felt I could do to assist. But you really don't need this. You don't need this. The folks that really want to learn how to do this don't require this. The folks that want to trade and try to push the envelope of what they should be doing with their time here will say, no, I need that. This is what you should be doing, Michael. No, I should not be doing that. The only thing I do is prod you along, point the way, focus on this path, stay on it, and you'll get here. The real reason why I've done these commentaries was just to prove that I can call these things before it happened, because on Forex Peace Army, there's a few people that honestly gave really, really slanted opinions about what they supposedly experienced here. And a few of them are the same person that lives in Canada, that's never been in the mentorship and has issues with me because he's just got problems. The folks that are going to be here for themselves, not because of what they're getting from me in terms of future moves, the ones that are really taking this information, studying it, and making it their own. Now, I'm not saying making it their own project and packaging it and putting it on a website and trying to sell it. Those types of individuals that get in here, they look at the concepts, they study on their own, they don't feel compelled to send me a laundry list of charts and say, hey, can you go over all these charts and tell me if I'm doing this right? That's not what this is. I can't answer those types of emails in a timely fashion, and it's just going to frustrate you. So this is a very hands-on, self-paced mentorship. There's a great deal of concepts and conceptual ideas that needs to be practiced on an individual basis. And because you do it routinely and you don't look at it has to give me a positive return every single time I sit down and do it, if you have the willingness and patience to keep doing it over and over and over again, you will recognize the experience factor that you're gaining, even though that the results that you get from practicing it don't give you the expectation that you had to come to fruition. It doesn't do that. You won't be discouraged. What you'll do is you'll identify, okay, that didn't happen. So let me go into this situation and see what was there that you may have missed. That's how I did this. Okay. All of you have had years shaved off just with the core concepts. The core content and concepts that I give you in the 12 months, that alone shaves everything off in terms of time. It reduces it greatly, and it doesn't make it where you watch the video one time and you know it, okay? Because there's a lot of people that think that's the case, and that's not what this is. There are times when you're only going to learn the lesson by being in that moment yourself, and then reflecting on what you're what you're encountering, how you're feeling, what concerns you're having, what fears. Are you getting really emotionally high on it? Like are you giddy? Are you walking around the house feeling like, well, let's call it what it is, arrogant, pompous, like you're smarter than you really are? You want to identify those moments and what you're feeling that about. It may be the fact that you have a win, or you called the low of the day and you got in real close to it and had very little drawdown. If you start having all those prima donna sensations and you're parading around the house, and I do this sometimes just to get with my wife and get on her nerves, but I do it to be facetious and be a troublemaker with my wife, because I already know that I'm going to get a rise out of her from it. But when you're doing it, okay, you're doing it as a character flaw in your development. It's going to be problematic for you if you live for that sugar high when you don't get them. Or and this is the point of this rant, if you go through a period like we did in November where it just doesn't feel like anything's lining up and the things aren't really perfectly aligned for intermarket relationships, and all the signatures that we normally like to see, or I like to see in price action, are just not presenting themselves, or some of them that are preliminary to setting up a solid entry, then they start collapsing or failing. When I start seeing those things that I look for, fizzle out or just collapse altogether before the multitude of things I look for a high probability setup for my own personal trading, I have to take a step back and not do anything. Now, I have performance anxiety when I go through periods like that, only because I know there's a hugely unrealistic expectation that students first coming in, first couple months, usually it's around the 5th month people start to get a little bit more mature in terms of being a student of mine, because then they can really grasp, hey, look, there's a lot of stuff here, and they didn't even get to the midpoint of the core content yet. But I know how it was for me as a new student, and I was really on my own. I would still fault other people for my own shortcomings, and I know that's what happens with a lot of you, and you may not admit it, but if you're honest with yourself, it's true. November was a very trying month, and the folks that continued on, here we are, in December, we're getting ready to have a cutoff in December 10th, and some of you won't continue because of what you experienced in November. Not looking at the greater picture of, that's one deviation from a long train of consistency. Okay, great. If that's the decision you've made, I am 100% behind that, because I can't fix that problem for you. It's internally, it's you. You're going to have a problem in your analysis as a trader on your own. You're going to get periods where you have losing. You're going to have periods of drawdown. You're going to have a series of losing trades. It's going to occur. How do you and how will you deal with that? Remember, you're going to be all by yourself or leaning on someone else that may or may not have as much experience. Don't have the understanding that I'm putting in your hands every single week. We went through a period of uncertainty. I was upfront and honest with you. I wasn't making any bones about it. I said, this is very tough for me, and I can't figure out one side of the market over the other. So I have to say something, because I can't be in a video and talk about, hey, look, there's something to do. We'll talk about it on next week. It doesn't work. Okay. You're here. You want to learn. So that's what I'm giving you. I'm giving you real world, real money experience, not demo trading experience. This is real money experience. And the lessons that you're learning is from losing fortunes. Lots of money. Probably a lot more money than you probably ever will have. And there's not a lot of people walking around that can tell you they have that type of experience. And the chemical imbalances that you experience when you lose fortunes, doing the stupid things that I'm trying to teach you not to do, when not to push your luck. The markets are going to tell you what's likely to occur. But if they start getting real quiet in terms of speaking to you through signatures and price that we look for, certain elements that we like to see, these overlapping confluences of intermarket relationships, they have to be there, or it's not a high probability situation. It's not a condition, if you will, that promotes a great deal of reward over risk. Risk is always going to be there. And some of you join this mentorship with the expectation that I somehow magically remove all risk. And it's not like that at all. There's always risk. There's risk until you collapse that trade. Period. End of story. It's over. You can't change that. You're here. You're participating in something. If you lose with live funds, that experience hurts. Not just financially, but it hurts psychologically. It hurts emotionally. It hurts egotistically, especially if you're a male. And because of periods of drawdown, periods of uncertainty, periods where performance is lacking, you have the benefit of not being in a situation that I'm in. I'm in a situation where I'm obligated on a 2 times a week basis to sit down with you, and I have to, with a gun to my head, tell you my opinion. And I try to be as honest as I possibly can to communicate. When it's easy, I will tell you this is easy. Or as we experienced in November, it was very hard. It was very challenging. And if you go back and listen to all the previous months and years, I don't really say that a lot. Okay, there's a couple times I said I have to wait for more information. But really, November was just it was a dog of a month. And I did not feel confident at all during that month. I just didn't feel it. And if you're basing your decision on whether you're going to become a trader on the month of November or the results of what you did in November or how I did in November in my analysis, that's too myopic of a view on a lifetime. Okay, whatever your age is, just plays devil's advocate for a moment. Say you all live to be 100 years old. God bless us all and let us go on beyond that. But let's just say you plan to live to be 100, or you do live to be 100. Wherever your age is right now, are you going to use the month of November and its adversity to derail you or scare you or change your mind about what you want to get out of this industry? Or are you going to say, okay, I experienced something that I maybe admittedly wasn't prepared for or didn't think would occur, but now that I did it, and now we're coming out of it and we're seeing the things start to come back in, and we can see their setups that are there. Things are forecastable. Okay, if that's even a word. You can predict things again and see them pan out. That is something that when I was learning in the 90s, I would have periods of win, and then I'd go through a period of drawdown where I have a losing trade, and then I would get mad. Instead of taking a step back and say, okay, did the state of the market change? Am I still in that environment where the buy is good? Because that's all I was doing in the 90s. I was only buying long. Couldn't sell short because I was afraid of it. Didn't understand it. But if I took a loss, I would get mad and go right back in and add more. This time I wouldn't put a stop loss in because they're going to get me if I did. And I'd lose more. And it would wreck me emotionally and psychologically because I was forcing myself and my will on the market. And the market is too big and formidable to have somebody like me coming at it with a stochastics and a 50-day moving average on a 60-minute chart. It was no contest whatsoever. It chewed me up and spit me out. I did not know what I am teaching you on a week-by-week basis, telling you the things that make it difficult and the things that would change it from a state of problematic and low probability. What factors are the things that I look for to reinstitute a level of high probability or a reasonable level of risk that could be taken for a potential yield or result that would be favorable. That's the mentorship. It's not those lessons that I give. It's not the videos that I did that you pay for each month. It's your participation and listening to me talk. Now, eventually, in 2021, I'm not going to be doing forecasting anymore. I'm not going to be doing it. I'm not going to be telling you what's going to happen in the marketplace. The level of teaching will still be exponentially higher than me pointing to future moves, because I'm going to be able to break down and spend my time on moves that have already happened. And also, I'll have a large base that have been with me for a number of years now that will be charter members, and they don't have to have that little cookie of, okay, prove you can do it, ICT. I need to know he can do it, or I just don't want to spend any time. This is so too long and too boring. I need to know it works, because if it works, then I ain't got to worry about it. Then I ain't going to have those feelings. See, at that point, I don't have to worry about giving you the attaboy or attagirl and pat you on the back and say, it's going to be good. Trust me, it's going to be better. I'll be able to prove myself eventually over time. I have a long history already on record. Look at the commentaries. This has all been to prove forecasting is possible. Knowing what the market's going to do is possible. Can I do it? I'm on video. You can see it and hear it and listen to it. It's all time and date stamped. I can't change all that. And when you watch the video, it's in an unedited format. Some of you want me to go back into videos and doctor them and fix them. It's because I've said something wrong or I said things improperly. When you signed that agreement to join here, you signed understanding that the very videos that I made in 2016 to 2017, you're buying access to those lessons. And anything new that comes out, you're a participant of that. I contractually cannot go back in and edit those videos. I can't. So the only thing I can do is leave it as they are, and when questions come up because I've said something incorrectly, and what I mean by that is there was one lesson I talked about, expansion can't happen after, I don't even remember exactly what I said, but I said something wrong. And it's not a make it or break it type thing. It's something that's easily corrected if you go through all the other content that's after that. But nonetheless, I said something wrong because I don't have a script. I don't have something in front of me. I don't read it because you can hear me. I'm speaking like I always do, off the cuff and from real experience and or insight that I have gleaned over these years. I don't change anything. I don't edit anything, okay? And I have given not just 1 year like they used to ask on Twitter. Give me 1 year where you can call the market, blah, blah, blah. I've done that. I've done it, okay? We got 2.5 years of it now, okay? And when I'm done over the next 12 months, I'm done. I'm not calling moves in this mentorship anymore. I'm not doing that because it's being abused, and I'm not making other people look smart. You can do that on your own by learning how to do this. But the folks that are joining just to go on to create their little IML, okay, racket that I'm in the midst of getting lawyers up on, and I am absolutely going to be suing them. All of that stuff, okay, it's just going to lead to me taking their money in another manner. And that's exactly what's going to happen. I'm not in the business, and I've said this before, even when I was making the core content, I said, I'm not your sugar daddy. I'm not going to give you signals so that way you can turn around and sell them like you've created it yourself. Now, when I say that, I'm talking to the individual or individuals that are in at the time and maybe are now that, okay, well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take everything ICT says, because there's other people in Colombia that don't know who ICT is. There's other people in Venezuela, okay, or other people in China that have never heard about ICT, and these people can take what I'm saying and regurgitate what I'm saying in these videos, and when the markets take place and they pan out, they're going to think that that person has it all figured out. But what are they going to do when I stop and they don't know what they're doing? It all stops then. See, I don't need this mentorship. Okay, I was rich before it, and I'll be rich after it. I can do all these things in here. Okay, when I sat down and developed these lessons, I did this so that way my children, okay, my children, not my friends on the internet, okay, not people I know in casual circles, my flesh and blood would have the ability to know what it is that I know. If something happened to me, they have it. Okay, there are details in these videos that change people's lives on all fronts, not just financially, but on how to pattern yourself and how to live an effective life and try not to worry about the things that you don't need to worry about and focusing on the real things that should be focused on. The initial inspiration was to inspire other people to make a lot of money and then help other people. And I kind of want to remind people that are joining here, that's still my desire. I don't want you